archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Greetings, Vasu, and a very warm welcome. When I look at your work profile, two eyes come to my mind: impressive and intriguing. I'll start with the intriguing part first. You have earned your reputation as a stand-up comedian, and at the same time you're recognized for standing up for social and environmental issues. This I find intriguing. Aren't they exactly the opposite? How do you pull it off?
It seems like it's different, but everything I do is actually the same thing. So from comedy to teaching to working with the environment to working with people who've been abused in their childhood or their adulthood and redoing their trauma, or being a triathlete, it's all about either healing myself or the world around me. So even though they seem like different things, they're actually really the same thing.
So you find there is a connection between the two, is it?
There absolutely is, in comedy as well. When people think comedy is a very light-hearted, funny, kind of casual thing, it's not. It's very, very serious. Have you ever seen Charlie Chaplin smile? Have you ever seen Boman Irani in a comedy role or Paresh Rawal in a comedy role smiling?
Unless the scripts demand. Yeah.
They don't, because comedy is actually very serious. There's a difference between reading a book to enjoy it and actually writing the book or deconstructing the book. So we have a PhD in comedy. Mm-hmm. What seems very lighthearted is not very serious, and what we're serious about is in the business of touching hearts. I'm very cognizant of the fact over the years that people who come to my audience, to be part of my audience, could have been fired that day, could have had a breakup, could have had a death in the family, or they themselves might be terminally ill. Mm-hmm. And they come to my show with the expectation that I'll make them feel better, and that is a promise that we take very seriously.
So how critical is timing in the entire scene?
In comedy, timing is absolutely everything. In fact, sometimes as the audience demands it, we might drop one pause between words. Sometimes we drop in 2 pauses. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we put in 5 pauses in between words. That's how precise it is. Yeah. And you're exactly right. Timing is, a joke is everything about timing.
And very often the audience that you're addressing, do you try and analyze their sense or their mood that day? Do you get to that part? Or you have a set piece and you come out with it and you just want to do it?
For beginner performers of any category, be it music or dance or whatever, whenever we stand in front of an audience, the beginner will spit out whatever it is they've learned. Mm-hmm. But with advanced performers, in theater, whatever, our job is to touch the hearts, to send out love. So while I'm speaking, I'm actually sending out love to everybody in the audience. Mm-hmm. So at that level, you have to know your material like the back of your hand. Mm-hmm. You can wake me up at 3 a.m., ask me to do a joke, I'll do it. Yeah. Because at the same time, I'm constantly having a dialogue with the audience. What they're feeling, what they're thinking. Is this boring? Are you with me? We check in every second by second. Because it's not like a play. It's not like we've got these lines and we have to recite and stuff. Absolutely. It's highly interactive, whether we officially or outright state it or not.
You've got a long list of things that you do. And the best part recently, it was missed out on, was that you have been honing your culinary skills as well.
That's right.
Right. That's the part that I really want to talk about. But before that, I just want to ask you, who is real you?
Who is the real me? That's such a lovely question. I think everybody in the world should ask themselves that question. Yeah. I found one thing about myself. I've learned one thing about myself, watching myself over all these years. One thing I've realized is no matter what happens, whether I fail or I succeed, or I fail in a large way or I succeed in a large way, I'm still going to go out and try. I'm going to try. And that's how my parents raised me, actually, my mother and my father. They said, we don't expect you to come first. We want you to try. And we want you to try your best. So if you come first in class and you didn't try at all, we would be disappointed in you. But if you tried your best and came last in class, we would be proud of you. That's the education my parents gave me. So my endeavor in anything in life is to try, and I will try. So that's me. I will try every day.
So, and that explains why and how you have been doing a lot of things that you have been doing, is it?
Right. Because my father never stopped me. Don't do this, don't do that. They said you can do anything, so consequently I did everything.
Okay. But before we get on to the other parts, you've grown up in Delhi, is it?
Yes, I grew up in Delhi till I was 21 years old.
Okay. And then you went around the globe.
Then I went to the United States.
Okay. Tell us about this journey.
So I went to the US and...
So it was a cultural shock for you as well?
Yeah, it was. Because the American culture is not about respecting age, It's about respecting merit. That's where I learned to do something, you have to do it well and stand only on the basis of your work. From here, I went to New York first. And then I went to UCLA. I did my master's in geography, urban planning, and law. And I worked in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and Los Angeles, Miami, Vancouver, GVRD, and I consider Alaska my home.
This journey has been an experience for you.
Completely, it's been the making of me.
And how do you say that? What happened? The experience of meeting more people, the experience of living a new culture.
So growing up in India, see, the world has a perception of Americans. And when I went to the United States, I realized that American people are very reasonable people. And it's been such an education that these people are good people with good hearts. I've been so touched. They would take me into their homes, into their hearts. I'm not their family. I'm not their race. I don't even speak their language. You know, I have to learn American English all over again, unlearn what we'd been taught. All of that, but such loving people. To this day, they're my family. And in Alaska particularly, a couple I call my parents, Ray and Vivian Manica. They were the grandparents of the Alaskan environmental movement. Such good people, such goodness, belief in justice, believe in goodness, belief in humanity and respecting everybody. That's why I call them my parents. And same as my parents, my mother always taught me, you will respect every culture, regardless of whether you understand it or not, you will respect everybody.
You know, of all the places, Alaska
is so beautiful.
It's not even mainland.
I know, and that's what I thought until I went there and I lived there, and there were 8 feet of snow and they have like maybe 3 hours of sunshine. But you know what else happens? Their cabbages are this big because in the summer you have 23 hours of sunlight. So the vegetables just grow and grow and grow. He probably was, yes. Oh. And Vivian had a loom in her room and she would weave it into cloth. And these two would wear gowns, gowns that one had spun that into yarn and the other had woven into cloth. Those are the gowns they wore for 50 years, for all the while that they were married until they died.
How did you reach there?
That's a very interesting story. I was working for Patagonia, the outdoor clothing company in New York, and they had put up a thing on the notice board that there's a GIS and web design internship. I said, I do both. And I don't know why I left a paying job in New York, went to Alaska for an unpaid internship. I thought Eskimos lived in Alaska. And I went straight into Ray and Vivian's house. Vivian was a board member of the Alaska Clean Water Alliance. And they were the making of me. Before I met them, I used to be a bitter person who used to sit in the corner of the room. I used to say, nobody cares for the environment. And it's just me, I'm crazy. And they taught me about the bell curve, that on the one end, these are people who will say no to you no matter what you say. These are people who will say yes to you even before you speak. And the bulk of the population of the world are people who are reasonable people if you give them a reasonable argument.
So there is the beginning of the environmentalist that you become.
Yeah, I already was an environmentalist, but I was a bitter environmentalist. And if you do anything with negative energy, that's the result you're going to get.
Absolutely.
And they turned me. It's like the education of Little Tree, this book. They were the education of this little tree. That they made me into a positive person and belief in people, and I act with that trust, and people respond to that trust, which is why I get the results I do.
So what is the change that has happened? So you said that you were a negative environmentalist.
Absolutely.
And now, what is it?
Now I can touch anyone's heart in half a second and have them stand with me.
So that is the difference, and that has come out of the experience that you've had there in Alaska, is it?
Yes, that's right.
I believe you teach as well, or you taught as well.
I do teach, yes, I'm a professor,
You're a professor.
Yeah.
So aren't there professors supposed to be scary people? And then you end up doing comedy.
Yeah.
How's that? Again, you know, that's the intriguing part. I'll keep coming back to that intriguing part time and time again.
See, comedians are great thinkers. I like to think that the greatest thinkers in society are comedians. Because, look at this, we not only analyze something, we turn that into a message. Not only do we turn it into a message, we make that message so entertaining that not only will you talk about it, you will repeat it and you will never forget it. Right? Isn't that what a professor is? The job of an educator is for me to communicate a message to you so that it absorbs your mind, it engages you. People fall over laughing. There's no question about is this controversial. They repeat it. That's the best kind of education, isn't it?
So as looking at some of your comedy acts, you know, let me give it to you that you're really funny. But at the same time, you make a lot of sense, right?
Yep.
And then, you know, how do you make comedy out of some serious issues?
Exactly. It's very easy to have anybody laugh at somebody slipping on a banana peel, right? The most difficult ragas to be sung are sung by advanced singers, not by you and me. right? Similarly, the mettle of an artist is gauged by the difficulty of the topic they touch. Now, I choose to use social messaging and convert that into comedy, to propagate those messages through comedy. That's exactly it, right? If something's already funny, for me to convert it into a joke is no work for me at all. But you try and talk about something like rape or some gender equality environment, people don't talk about it, or it's a negative topic, and have people applaud to it. Now look at that, and look at what I achieved as an artist there.
Why do comedy at all? I mean, who do you do it for? Are you trying to address the common audience? You're trying to address some selected few?
Yeah, the comedy is actually one of the most sacred professions out there. It's not just like being a doctor. And when people come to us and they're sad or they're depressed, and there's so many things in today's world to make us sad and depressed. There's so many things. And comedy cuts through all of that and gives you hope again. And even medical science says that at least 90% of all diseases are psychosomatic in nature. So the disease starts with your heart or your mind. And if we fix that, I mean, you know how they say comedy is the best medicine. It truly is.
Yeah.
So I've had such incredible experiences. I remember once I did the show and this guy came up to me later. He said, "Thank you. My friend came to your show and you made his last few days on earth happy because he came to your show." So it's
That's
really
a big compliment.
Yeah, we are very, very cognizant of the responsibility we have. We will give our lives to make you laugh and have you have a good time.
So tell us more about your comedy acts.
In comedy, we talk about stuff that's close to our hearts. It has to be our truth. And I am a change maker. I'm an Ashoka Fellow. I believe in systemic change. I want to make this world a better place. And I want to bring people together. My comedy is a bridge. I bring people together.
I mean, what are the issues are you really working on? Which is the most critical issue according to you?
So for me, the environment is critical because we can't live without it. We can't live without clean water, clean air. And the way it's going, it's across the world, we are using our rivers as toilets, flushing the waste away straight into oceans, and it's not acceptable. If India is a country that respects its rivers, if we consider them as our mothers, then you've got to first not pollute them in the first place. There has to be prevention. You can't take out after it's put in water. So environment, I'm very concerned about the rights of people who are differently abled and how they're not even brought into the mainstream rhetoric. It's very disturbing. We've all heard horror stories about what happens in these homes, in the shelters and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not thought about when the streets are planned.
So when did you actually start taking up these issues? Any issue that you took up and took it to its logical conclusion? Anywhere you've been able to make a little difference? Anything that comes to your mind right now?
Since I was a child,
Yeah.
I went and yelled at the horticulture department when they were cutting the trees. Why are you cutting the trees? You know you're hurting the trees. That's not acceptable. So he left, and then they planted more trees around and stuff. But I've always cared for those who have a weak voice or are voiceless. In the world. So that we always learned, fight against bullies, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, started very young.
I believe you started an NGO,
Yes, I did.
Simeka Resources for Environmental Education.
Yes.
What do you guys do there?
What I had done in the United States was working with restaurants, greening them.
So when you say greening the restaurants, what would it mean?
That would mean that working with the restaurants on a minimum of 60 environmental measures along 4 segments: energy conservation, water conservation, pollution prevention, and solid waste minimization. Created a quantitative metric for the United States, for the restaurant industry. And the US EPA said that they have not seen results quantified in the environmental field, let alone quantified the way she does. So where you had a recruitment rate from governmental programs which is 3 to 10%. In my program, the recruitment rate was 95%. That's the difference. I created results like they'd never seen before in the United States. I was taught about at NYU. There was a class where they talked about me, and somebody contacted me and said, we read about you in class, right? We were a tiny organization. But that's what Margaret Mead had said, that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has. Yeah, so I'm very keen on working with rapists and murderers because, point one, criminals are not happy people. And criminals, most of them, if not all of them, come from very unhappy backgrounds. from poverty or from backgrounds that they've been beaten, they've been raped themselves, and they've never received any assistance. The only difference between them and us is where we were born. If you and I were born in the same circumstances, I bet you we would be doing the same things for the simple reason that that's our norm.
Yeah.
And when it's our norm, it's familiar, it's normal, therefore we do it. So there's nothing wrong with it. I make a very strong demarcation between sinner and the sin. Which among us has not sinned against someone? And if we've been given a chance by our parents lovingly, so do they deserve a chance. They've never been given a chance. When you were a little boy and you did something wrong, would you rather your mother explain to you patiently, or would you rather she beat you? Which is more effective in explaining to you, in changing your behavior? Your mother would want to strangle you. She has to stop herself and explain lovingly to you. If you do it 6 times, 10 times, some form of accountability rather than punishment. Accountability is good. Immediately hold the person accountable. Absolutely. But at least give them a chance. You don't know. It's like trying to explain to a blind boy what the color blue looks like. They have no concept of it. At least try to explain to them. And they're very traumatized individuals. And if I de-traumatize them, I will automatically decriminalize them. And I have to a great degree of success in such cases.
Okay. So you believe that these guys can be changed?
I believe so. The majority of them can be.
Let's get on to another aspect of your life. You are a triathlete. When did you start that? How did it start? And hands on your heart, tell us the truth. Did it start on its own, or you wanted to do it, or because somebody told you that you've got to do it?
My parents threw me in a swimming pool when we were little, my twin sister and I. So we started swimming since we were 2 years old. No training, it was just swimming. And we learned cycling as we were growing up. And my running started with when I was a child, and this cockroach ran up my leg. And I didn't think to bat it away. I just ran round and round the house screaming. So my first running training with lung capacity was...
That was it. So, but then, now you seriously pursue it.
Yeah, because I can. You know why? When Edmund Hillary was, why did you climb the Everest? Because it's there. Why would you do it? Because I can.
Yeah.
Why not? It's a good thing to do.
Yeah. So anything that you're aiming to do right now, when that you're participating?
Yeah, I was actually going to swim 10 kilometers, but my coach just said it's just 1 month's training. I'm just recovering from a dislocated collarbone. So 1 month is too little. So I'm going to do 5 kilometers instead, which is equivalent to running a 21 kilometer. And then I'm going to get back into training for the Ironman. But the human body was built to run. If you read Born to Run by Christopher McDougall, this book, man was built to run. We are getting to be increasingly sedentary creatures, and which goes against our grain, and our diseases are increasing because we're increasingly sedentary. So anything you can do to work out, to get your heart pumping to 100%, 110%, 200% of its capacity, which we do build towards, is good. You serve yourself.
So does it help in becoming a better social person?
Absolutely does.
How do you think that
Yes
happens?
and no.
Yes and no?
Yes and no.
Okay, intriguing part comes back in the play.
Yeah, the yes part is it makes you a humble person in that you know exactly where you stand. Only what you've been doing is the result you'll get. So very disciplined. It teaches us discipline. Every day, consistency, persistence, tenacity. If there's one mantra of success in life, it's tenacity. You try something every day and you'll become a master in 10 years. But the no part of social is we don't have any time at all. When we get up in the summer for cycling training, we get up at 3:30 a.m. That means you have to be in bed at 9 p.m. Nobody can call you, nobody can talk to you. We're completely asocial creatures. Our greatest needs are training, sleeping, hydrating, fueling, and that's it.
But then when you're participating, you're actually meeting with other people.
Oh, we don't have anything to talk. In swimming in the ocean, we're not talking to anybody. When we're cycling, you can't even drift. You can't be within a bicycle length of anybody else. When you're running, you're so tired, you're like, you can't talk to anybody.
You've been honing your culinary skills, right? And what are the things that does it really go along with your sports activity? Is it an antithesis to it?
Actually, it does, because...
it goes along with it?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
Why I started what I started was because we don't, as athletes, we don't get gluten-free bread in India, and we don't have wheat. So I said, okay, let me make gluten-free bread. So I started a gluten-free bakery. And
Oh, you already started?
yeah, I'm in the process of registration, this,
okay.
that. So that's happening. And meanwhile, testing the recipes and getting those going in. This like so awesome. My breads have, like this bread I made yesterday. It's got flax seeds, almonds, walnuts, quinoa flour, amaranth flour, jowar, bajra, honey, and eggs, and no chemicals, no preservatives, anything.
And still taste like bread.
It tastes much better than bread.
Okay.
Much better than
Let
bread.
us know when you go commercial about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just going to be
Because
super awesome.
you've been felicitated, honored, a lot many awards. Which one is the closest to your heart, and why is that?
That's a tough one. I guess I've received the highest award by the President of India. I've gotten the highest US EPA Environmental Achievement Award. I've got the highest state of California, most prestigious Environmental and Economic Achievement Award. I think the dearest to my heart would be the Ashoka Fellowship, which is Ashoka Innovators for the Public. This is a group of people across the world who believe in systemic change, and wherever they make an impact, economic, environmental, social, these are people who are engineers at heart, who have a dream, and they will see it implemented. They won't rest until it's implemented. And these are the people who make the world go around and make the world a better place. So I am very honored to be part of that group of people. They're my people.
Okay. So which work did you get this fellowship for?
For the environmental work.
And back there in US, is it?
Back in the US, yes.
Oh, okay.